Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, User-Generated Content for Associations. My name is Chris Jorgensen, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Unleash Technologies. For those of you who do not know us already, Unleash Technologies has been dedicated to creating award-winning websites and digital experiences for our association clients since 2007. We have a particular focus on open source web technologies, with our primary platforms being Drupal and WordPress. Our team has been following the rise of user-generated content for some time, and we're excited to share an overview today on how it might help your organization to create a higher level of member engagement. At this time, I'll be turning things over to Chris Foran from the Unleash Technologies team. Chris is our Director of Growth at Unleash Technologies, and for the last 15 years has been working with organizations in both the public and private sectors to improve their digital experiences. Chris, take it away.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Chris, and thanks everybody for joining us for what I think is a very exciting topic in user-generated content, and really the opportunity for associations I think is fantastic, and excited to dig into this with everyone this afternoon. So real quick, for the sake of the agenda, wanted to run through a couple things here and let you know what we'll be covering today. First off, quickly going to touch upon why you should take our word for it, letting you know our experience with associations and user-generated content. Next, we want to make sure that the focus of this presentation is on association growth. So we want to look at user-generated content from the lens of how we can help you grow your association or your member organization. And then we're going to take a fun look at how powerful user-generated content is, and why is that so? Why is it such a powerful force in the marketplace? And then we're going to assess some opportunities for associations, the shift in online behavior, really what associations need to consider as far as opportunities and things for consideration as you're delving into user-generated content. And then lastly, where does user-generated content, and we could exchange the word member-generated content here, where does it belong in the customer journey or the member journey? So as we get started, just a quick advertisement or checking the box on Unleash Technologies, why you should take our word for it. Our experience is over a decade of helping associations grow. So Unleash Technologies has been specialized in building, designing, maintaining websites and premier digital experiences for associations for 10 years now. We've worked with hundreds of them, and we have an active client roster of about 40 associations who work with us and really partner with us on the continuous improvement of their web experiences. As I said, the focus and the angle we're hoping to take here is association growth. So really bringing together some of the common goals and challenges for association. As we talk about user-generated content, we want to focus in on ways to increase membership, improve renewal rates, boost event attendance, generating revenue, increasing advocacy. So how can associations leverage user-generated content to assist with these items? So a lot of the examples we have are going to come from the commercial space, and that's intentional here because I think associations have the most to learn from what's being done in the commercial space. And but again, let's be thinking of it from the lens of these growth goals and challenges. And also, this is a slide that I often go back to. It's from Marketing Sherpa, that did a survey of about just under 800 associations and wanted to discover what the biggest challenges to growing membership organizations was. And really, these are the things that I think can directly benefit from a good user-generated content strategy, or harnessing the power of user-generated content, I should say. So those challenges, when you think about it: difficulty in communicating value or benefits, insufficient staff, membership diverse, difficulty meeting the needs of different segments. So kind of keying in on those top three there, but moving on, for the sake of this conversation, makes sense to kind of get the definition down. I'm sure most people know what this is and has had some sort of exposure to user-generated content, but for the sake of the conversation, User-generated content is any published information that an unpaid contributor has provided to a platform. So the key word there is unpaid. You didn't ask, well, you could have asked for it, but you didn't pay for it. And the information can be in the form of photo, video, blog, audio, discussion, forum, polls, surveys, reviews, and comments, as well as the next, snap, tweet, the next social media platform that we don't know about. This is a very dynamic marketplace, and people get very bored with platforms very quickly, and so user-generated content will umbrella the next thing as well. So as we think about this, there's a ton of compelling stats here, and I'm a data person. I love statistics, and I apologize if I hammer you over the head with statistics on the power of user-generated content here. But I think the takeaway from this is, thinking about strategies that your organization and maybe different ways about leveraging your members for content. But, you might run into the objection, well, our members aren't going to share our content. Well, the data says that, 75% of all people are likely to share on a good brand interaction on social media. So if they're not sharing, it's because they are not necessarily motivated to do so, or they haven't had the conviction or felt compelled to do so. So how can you help change that? A couple of smaller stats on the right-hand side. 79% of all consumers have shared a life milestone on social. So really, this is ubiquitous. This is embedded in our lifestyle these days. And then 1 in 3 consumers would mention a brand when sharing a personal accomplishment on social. So people are not afraid to reward excellent, positive brands, customer service, things like that. Let's find out how we can get your members, better promoting your organization. So here's what I'd like to say are some more compelling stats in my obligatory millennial reference, right? Can you get through a PowerPoint on marketing these days without a millennial reference? By the way, the stat on the bottom right-hand corner, 24% of millennials forfeited vacation in 2015, actually has nothing to do with this presentation. I just thought it was a really interesting stat, so I threw it in there. But the ones that we think would really jump off the page at you are 92% of consumers trust word of mouth more than any kind of advertising. So word of mouth, as we all know, has been put on steroids on the internet. Being able to reinforce or put a stamp of approval on something can be done very quickly with the way we can communicate online. I'm not going to read all of these off of this list, but 82% of consumers actively seek out referrals from other consumers' peers before making a purchase. So if someone's thinking about joining an association, they're definitely polling their peers, right? Reviews are trusted 12 more times more than marketing coming directly from the organization. Okay, so it's the voice of the customer, the voice of the member is going to do a much more powerful job of selling your organization than your marketing team ever will. Or if your marketing team is smart, they're going to surface those reviews and surface those positive comments and make them freely available to people who are assessing your organization. Just a couple others here. User-generated videos on YouTube get 10 times more views than brand content. And then 55% of all consumers trust user-generated content over other forms of marketing. So we'll talk about why this is, but there's been a major shift in the way people source products, information, and all types of services online. But what does this mean? People trust people. People trust other people more than brands. Millennials are relying on user-generated content more than any organization, and visual user-generated content helps build and convert trust more. Okay, so I'm a big fan of movies, and I just needed to find a way to bring Thanos into this. For those of you who know Thanos from in asking the question, how powerful is user-generated content? And we had some really powerful and fun examples here for you. And again, and hopefully inspiring different ways to think about your organization, even though these are some kind of extreme examples. The one everyone knows about and perhaps everyone participated in, user-generated content is so powerful, it can generate $220 million for a charity over the course of a couple months. The ALS Challenge in the summer of 2014 raised $220 million for ALS, the Ice Bucket Challenge. 1 billion YouTube views in 2014. 440 million videos posted on Facebook. 10 billion Facebook video views, and it was the second biggest topic on Facebook in 2014. Now, not everyone's going to go viral, but as a nonprofit, as an association, we think about your own fundraising efforts. Just the opportunity, the universe of opportunity is very grand, and this is that extreme example. User-generated content is so powerful, it can make a pop song go #1 for 29 weeks. Those people who were up to date on the latest and greatest music, which I am not, may know Drake and his song "In My Feelings," which had this Kiki challenge where people were dancing to his song and doing their own interpretation of it on the internet. The interesting thing about this song was that it was not being promoted by the label. This comedian who had a big following online actually did the first version of the Kiki dance or the Kiki challenge, and it went viral. And it subsequently made the song get 116 million streams in 1 week, which was the record. And the actual video on YouTube had 150 million views. So what it ended up making the song #1 for 29 weeks, which beat any song the Beatles in the history of music. So user-generated content has changed the face of promotion in our lifetimes. And it's interesting because the record label didn't do this, or they didn't try to get something viral. If you're trying to make something viral, you usually don't succeed. For example, Kanye West put out a song right after this and tried to create his own challenge, and it was successful, but didn't have anything near what Drake had here. One other quick example before we dig into some association specifics. This is a little bit of I don't know if I just want to stretch on user-generated content, but when you think about what Amazon did when they put out this RFP for their headquarters too, really what they were doing was tapping into their customers for content. The bottom bullet on this page, makes you think. The winner was only 6 miles from Jeff Bezos' home in DC. Was he ever actually considering opening up another headquarters in another city, or had he already decided to build one close to home? But what they were able to do, and the genius in this, they were able to solicit 238 proposals from cities across North America. They generated $42 million in free publicity for Amazon. I guess if you're Amazon, it's kind of a drop in the bucket, but really what they did is they flipped the funnel, and they got their customers or their potential customers working for them. And it's a very hard thing to do, but there are a lot of interesting ways to look at this. I mean, the other thing that happened was you had states like Maryland willing to give them $8.5 billion in tax credits. And then the most interesting piece of this that I learned is that what they were really hoping to get was this database of everything they needed to know about these other 237 localities or these cities for evaluating future locations. Or now they have this database that's more robust than anyone else has that goes into all the economic aspects and the benefits of working in a particular locality. So very interesting and exciting data from my perspective. So jumping into the opportunity for associations with respect to user-generated content. So again, reminding us of these growth goals and these challenges, increasing membership, renewal rates, attendance, whatever it might be, the specific goals for your group, and what the challenges being, communicating value or benefits, insufficient staff, and a diverse membership. These are, when you think about user-generated content, it's kind of the perfect vehicle to get over these challenges. You know, that first one listed there, difficulty in communicating value or benefits. Who's going to be better at communicating the value or benefits than the folks who are extracting value from your organization? So you should be investing in surfacing these testimonials in putting them in your marketing. You know, when it talks about insufficient staff, leveraging your membership for content. You know, use your membership as your content strategy. These are experts in your field most of the time, and they are going to want to participate. It's going to make them more engaged, it's going to make them more loyal, it's going to make them share it with their own particular network. So I'm getting into a little bit of the tactics here before I wanted to, but I do think it's also very important that the associations, before they start thinking about tactics, they need to recognize the major shift in consumer behavior. Okay, what I mean by that is there's been this massive shift in the way people consume information, products, and services online. And yes, when I say consumer behavior, I know we're talking to nonprofits, sometimes B2B organizations, whether you face consumers, your associations and the success of your associations is directly being affected by the Amazon effect, meaning 54% of all shopping experiences begin on Amazon. So people, i.e. your prospective members, are expecting the same type of experience. What's that type of experience? It's a very much an on-demand experience. It's an experience driven by peer reviews. It's a very pleasurable and quick, easy to navigate experience. It's got personalization wherever possible. It's a mobile-friendly experience. And it's a non-linear journey, which we'll talk about in a moment. But these organizations or these companies like Netflix, Facebook, and Amazon, you are now competing for time with these organizations. So if your website, if your digital experience is what we say, if you're not making it easy for them to work with you, really your job is to reduce friction in working with you by making a more pleasurable experience, by making it easier for people to source information about you. Oftentimes, user-generated content is going to be the best way to help them source information about you. So, taking it one step further, you know, talking about, I was hinting at this, but 57% of the purchase journey is anonymous, according to Gartner. So this guy right here counts for gold, not this guy, but anonymous traffic is what we mean here is people are jaded by sales and marketing on the internet. People are jaded by sales and marketing traditionally. The internet has allowed them to conduct their own self-service research online, regardless of they're purchasing a consumer product or they are researching a group and a membership. They're looking for the best source of information. They're looking for thought leaders. In the age of information, these users are wanting to self-serve information as much as they can. They never want to talk to a salesperson or a development person unless they absolutely have to. So you then need to make the information they need freely available for them to assess you until they're ready. So where do they do their research? What are they looking for? This is a stat from McKinsey that says, again, we're going to look at consumer-driven marketing, but word of mouth and online research, offline or print reviews represent 21% of the initial consideration set. So where in the past, marketers and advertisers were trying to push their brand, push their agenda in front of consumers. The consumers hold all the cards, and they're going to initiate it, and they're going to initiate it by tapping into their peer network of other potential users, and it's usually going to happen on the internet. And they get into active evaluation, it gets even larger. So they're going through word of mouth, online research, and then finally, when they do interact with some sort of sales or representative from your organization, they are yes, there's about 43% interaction from your representative, but there's still 31% of it. So 2/3 of the consideration set along this journey is based on user-generated content and leveraging information they can find from other people on the web, not from your organization, not from a brand. So when I said before, the shift to a non-linear customer journey. You think about the funnel that used to exist, or it was even on that previous page that I had here, where people would maybe get stuck in one of the phases of interacting or engaging with your company or your organization, and you could invest time or money to move them along to the next phase. Not anymore. It's a much more complex approach. This customer journey, as you see this kind of tangle of wires here, could vary from someone seeing a print ad. I mean, it's offline and offline, really. Getting their information through all of these channels, but as you can see, the different types of user-generated content, comments, reviews, blog posts, social media posts. I don't have it listed here, podcasts, short videos, long videos, surveys. They're looking for this type of content. You have to make it freely available to them. You're going to help them. You're going to reduce the friction between your organization when you give it to them. We're big proponents of HubSpot here, and I loved this quote from Brian Halligan, the CEO of HubSpot, and they kind of changed their mindset. They were big proponents of the funnel and pulling either customers or prospective customers through a sales and marketing funnel. Now, where you used to say sales and marketing was the biggest driver of growth, you think delighted customers are the biggest drivers of new growth. And in this case, your happy members, your voice of your membership are going to be the best investment for you to make as you look to grow your membership. You start to get into some specifics here, but why should associations use user-generated content or member-generated content? Okay, you might have limited budget, or you might it costs less to produce. So thinking about that content marketing strategy, tapping into, you have experts in your organization who can write, make it a status symbol for them to create the content that you're producing, create a content calendar where you're making it routine, where your members are taking over your blog every month. It builds members' trust, as we saw before. People trust other people more than they do the people behind the wheel of the brand or the association brand. Leverage influencer members. You saw some of the attendees here in this webinar, and I know whether it's their advocacy or their expertise in certain policy and different areas, you've got influencers, you've got members who can really promote your organization at a level much higher than your marketing ever could. So when you're doing these things, you're increasing your footprint on the web. You're also increasing your SEO value, because when you engage your users in this content approach, there's a little bit of a vanity that goes with it, where they're sharing with their peers in their own network. So it's got this kind of this expanding umbrella effect that goes on when you've got them engaged. And then engaging them is actually increasing your reach, but it's increasing your member loyalty and your retention. And as we saw in the case of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, it can drive donations, but really, that's an extreme example. But really using your member force as your ambassadors out there, whether it's to raise money, to generate content, to raise awareness, I think just the opportunity exists, and it's so great for associations because you're sitting on all of the assets that a lot of organizations really would die to have, meaning you've got the influencers, you've got great content creators, you've got all of these things that people work very hard to kind of produce artificially. You've got them inherently in your associations. So as far as channel, where are the opportunities? I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of different channels. And again, I'm using a little bit of hyperbole here to impress upon you the opportunity that some of these channels exist. So YouTube, you may have seen the top earner, the top YouTuber last year was a 7-year-old boy doing toy reviews. It was a user-generated content person. $22 million this kid earned by basically unboxing toys and earning ads, sponsored posts from toy manufacturers and other organizations that wanted him to get in front of his giant audience. I have kids, 9 and 12, who my 9-year-old is watching YouTube pretty much all day, and it's amazing. I shouldn't say he's watching it all day, but when he watches TV, he's watching YouTube, and he doesn't realize that he's being sold product constantly, because they're just, he's just watching people, and what he realizes is their reality. But it's kind of scary at times too. But user-generated YouTube product videos. So 50% of consumers are influenced by watching product review videos. For the case of associations, member testimonials, best piece of content you could invest in. Putting it on YouTube, making it shareable. Content experts, people talking about the different issues that you might cover if you're doing advocacy. 100 hours of videos are uploaded to YouTube each minute. Just astronomical numbers. I don't think we need to belabor the point here, but this is an interesting stat as you try to evaluate, like, well, which network should we invest in for our organization? And we could, share this deck after the call for anyone who wants it, but network preferences by generation. So I know different associations obviously have different demographics. I seem to hear a lot that people are trying to attract new millennial membership. It's harder to get younger members, or maybe it's harder to reach the older members, or they think it's harder to reach the older members through online, which is not the case. So you look right here, Facebook and Gen X are 65% on Facebook, where versus millennials only about 20-30%. YouTube is big on millennials. If you want to reach millennials, according to this, Instagram is your best bet. And then you've got Snapchat and YouTube right behind that. So really, one of the things that we've learned in our experience is that, don't try to master every channel at once. Like pick something, first off, listen to your client base or your member base, and understand the channels that they use, that they frequent, and then really try to work on engaging them where they are. So we've given a lot of big kind of examples. Wanted to give some real world, more realistic opportunities and tactics for associations to leverage user-generated content. Getting really specific. And I touched upon a few of these, but first and foremost, on your website, highlighting member testimonials, the most powerful piece of content you have if you're trying to attract new members. Blogs, if you're trying to engage people around your content, your prospective members, the people you're trying to reach and influence are going to appreciate your members' blogging. It's also going to help save you money and help you bolster your organization from a content marketing, a content strategy standpoint. Create a system, create a content calendar where you book out the members, almost make it a status symbol to get onto your blog. Social media, ask a member to take over one of your social media channels for a day. I've seen this used, and it gets tons of engagements because people get in a pattern of seeing certain things, and a lot of people's social media channels seems like they're on autopilot, but then you insert some personality in it. Maybe they'll feel more comfortable asking questions over social media. YouTube, again, member experiences, providing expertise on certain topics. Great idea around videos could be an annual recap of the member experience with testimonials. So especially if your membership might be an annual membership where people renew annually, remind them each year with their peers, or maybe they weren't as active in the group as they should have been, help retain them by showing them the happy member testimonials that came away from the previous year. This one, I think it probably jumps out at me more than the rest is podcasts. I'm shocked I didn't have a stat in here for the amount of podcasts that are being listened to now, but podcasts are an amazing way, and just imagine being able to interview a different member on each episode of your podcast. So it's a great way to engage your membership, engage prospective members who care about the topics, and it's a medium that is very powerful right now. Another way would be hosting a member Q&A session on Twitter where prospects can ask questions about membership. And I've seen these really successful as well. I know some teachers organizations and people are they may be asking about like membership, but they're also asking about discussing topics on Twitter in an open forum, and it's a real dynamic way to get your members involved with either existing members or prospective members in a social setting and get them more comfortable with a platform like Twitter. White papers, things that you normally would consider including in your website for engagement, for conversion rate optimization, if you're going to use the technical terms, getting more people to subscribe to your communications, to your list of thought leadership. When those white papers are actually penned by the influencers, right, in your organization, or they're not coming from just the association itself without a person on the other side. Then a couple other things: ask a member feature on your website, active member hashtagging, so events and content on social media. So encouraging and there's some tools, and if people are interested and want to know, there are some tools, really interesting tools, that there's a lot of them out there, both for listening and understanding where you're being mentioned across social media, but also wanting to track and encourage more user-generated content. And hashtags are obviously a great way to do that, but there are now some new rules, like for example with Instagram, where you can't go out and search for a term like insurance and it's not going to pull up the relevant post. You can search based on hashtags and things like that, but it does take some tools and some analytics to really have a strong grasp of what's being said, so you can listen closely, and then you can also affect and maybe change your approach and try to encourage people to promote the brand, promote the association, and have it be authentic, right? So there is definitely a science to this, and asking. So you have to ask people to share, but they need to know the benefits of what's involved with sharing if they're not doing it on their own. So I wanted to run through just a couple other really powerful things, and again, putting them in the perspective of associations. The power of customer reviews, the power of member reviews. Depending on the type of organization or association that you are, maybe you're the curator of reviews for your industry, right? Maybe you're a watchdog for a certain industry, and you want to solicit customer reviews around different or just general reviews around different people's experiences with companies, products, services, etc. If you want to solicit member reviews, these testimonials, again, these are things that you want to heavily include in your marketing and promoting of your own association. But from our own perspective, the Amazon effect, or the effect that reviews have had on all types of purchases, all types of decisions being made on the web. Our company personally, we are in an industry that has traditionally had great sales and marketing pitches to our prospective clients, but there was no proof on the other end that we could do what we were saying we were doing. Now, just like someone makes a purchase on Amazon, you can go to a site called Clutch and search for reviews on digital agencies like Unleashed Technologies, and kind of weed out the organizations that don't have that positive social proof for that experience that that our clients are willing to share in order to help us generate new business. So it's critical for us to, as that stat I used earlier from HubSpot, happy clients, the focus is happy members, and it is all playing off each other in order to fuel growth. So you need to provide that great member experience. You need to provide member value. You need to communicate the fact that people are extracting value and encourage them to share that across the internet. And these reviews can be used across the customer journey. This is a very commercial specific example here. PopSockets was a cell phone. Everyone probably knows what PopSockets are, the little holder on the bottom of your phone, but it's got an attachment that you can clip to your dashboard. PopSockets put a 5-star review in its Instagram ad, and they're able to triple the amount of likes on that ad and generate sales. So there's 300 million Instagram users who interact with stories every day, making it the very ideal opportunity for sharing customer content. Is it right for your association? It depends. Is there a very visual aspect to what you do? Are there sharing videos on Instagram? I think a lot of people think that it's not right, but you'd be surprised that more people there's people leaving Facebook left and right because they don't like the negativity on it, or even though if Facebook owns Instagram, they think that it's a better platform because it's a more positive platform at times. So don't ignore the opportunity that Instagram might present for you, and then use it as a chance to maybe advertise your association and highlight a member testimonial right there in the advertisement or the post, or include a video on Instagram as well. And then I talked about this earlier as far as let your customers be your content strategy. HubSpot is a great way to coordinate and harness content and assign many different users with say blog posts or an article that they're going to write on your website or on your newsletter, and you can run and coordinate and organize that effort on something like HubSpot. But in this instance, I'm using HubSpot as an example of a company that was built on user-generated content. So probably similar to the opportunity that associations have, HubSpot relied heavily on agency partners like us to promote their business. And the way they did that is they opened up their blog to all of the agency partners. So any agency partner could write a blog post for HubSpot. So the beauty of that is that they fueled their content. They had people working for them, actually practitioners discussing the benefits of it, but they're also not only sharing it on their own site, but each contributor would take that and share it with their own network, reach their customers, their prospects, their networks, et cetera. So a really smart approach that I think is going to have that snowballing effect as well, because as you know, your members run in certain circles as well, and there's probably 10 people. Each of your members probably has 10 people that they might know that might qualify also to be membership. I know I'm leaning heavily on growing membership, but you can apply these things to raising money or to advocacy as well as events, obviously. So the other things that HubSpot was able to do is create those backlinks, the SEO, again, the exponential reach, layers of audience with practical promotion of their software. And really, this all starts with listening to their customers and understanding, okay, well, where are they frequenting? They asked the question, what sources of information do you rely on when making purchases decisions for business software? And overwhelmingly, it said word of mouth, 55%. Customer references, 46%. Media is down there third, but I think these types of activities need to be driven by posing some questions to your audience and make the questions themselves user-generated content. Surveys are an extremely effective way to engage your users. You survey your audience maybe once a year and publish that survey. HubSpot does this. They put out a state of the agency report where they surveyed 2,000 agencies every year, and then they produce those statistics and make an event around it. So really, again, so many opportunities, so many different applications. Hopefully, you're extracting some ideas for your organization. I'm gonna, it's been going a little long here, but I wanted to kind of wrap it up with just one key element to all of this, and a common theme that I've used along the way is that you're trying to reduce the friction of working with your organization, the friction of becoming a member, the friction of getting information from you, reduce the friction of sourcing or having access to an individual member to ask them what being a member is like. So all of those things are making it easier for your customers to learn. And this is the slide I have, it make it easy for your customers to get creative, but there are many different tools out there where you can take away that friction by saying, like, all right, there's no work involved in learning about us. So make it very easy and for the members to kind of surface beneath from this wall that might be gated around your members. You might be producing research, you might be producing all sorts of content or great events and things like that, but it's the people that and the user-generated content that I think is going to make all the difference. So on that note, hope you found some good insights in this. It's a topic we love here. We'd be happy to take some questions if you have any, and I will check here my colleague Chris.
Yep, and we invite you to ask any questions just using the GoToWebinar interface. Our first question comes from Ryan, and his question is, what sort of permission do I need to get in order to repurpose other people's photos for my association? How should I get that permission?
So, interesting. So, repurposing other people's photos for my association. So, I think as a general rule, you are you got to be very careful about leveraging, photos from the internet. But it was a question related to leveraging photos of someone within my membership. So that's an interesting question, and I'm not. Some of that might come down to the specifics of the conditions of that specific membership. But I would say you do need to get explicit permission from any content creator, like on the web in general, to repost or use their content. So if you're using it as marketing collateral or to sell products or promote things, so I'd say as a general rule, hopefully it's covered in your membership agreement, but always play on the conservative side and get permission.
Thanks, Chris. Next question comes from Tim. Is there much difference between user-generated content and co-created content? He says he sees people talking about both.
So I think there is, it's very closely related. And in fact, there's some studies out there that co-created content is just as effective as user-generated content, where you have, someone in the association almost as the moderator, or a lot of people out there might be experts in certain fields, but they're not writers. So it's very common to have co-creators, and I think it's the next best thing than having someone who can run with it, or if you can make it appear as if it was 100% created and published by the member, might seem a little more authentic, which is what we're going for. But co-creation has been very, very effective.
One more follow-up from Tim on that. Is there an emerging user-generated content stack in terms of?
So great question. So it's kind of the Wild West right now. I think there's going to be some consolidation in the marketplace from a technology standpoint, and depending on the size of your organization, like there are some very big listening tools like Signal Labs, where if you've got a viral component where you need to track millions of hits and user-generated content, that would be more of like an enterprise solution. But there's other things like Sprout Social, and actually we have if you want to reach out to us, we've done a review of the different platforms that are both great for listening and for curating user-generated content. But if you were to ask me if there's a a preferred stack or kind of one that people are gravitating for and appearing to be the leader, I would say it's not there yet. This is another platform called Sprinklr that we really like, but it really depends on the goals of your organization, the size of your organization, the types of channels you're using. So there's a number of them out there. There's a plethora of marketing technology tools, and anyone who might need some help navigating them, we'd be happy to help you explore some of those different options we've had exposure to.
Thanks, Chris. Next question comes from Sarah, and she asks, do you guys see a correlation with user-generated content and the rise of voice technology?
Mm-hmm. Interesting question, and I was thinking about that coming into this presentation. It isn't clear to me, at least yet. I know that voice technology and is essentially removing the interface that is our screens. So it's really the content, user-generated content, is still king, regardless of whether you are accessing on a computer or on a voice-activated device. I don't think those devices are configured with user-generated content like you could access on the web yet, but I very much see it in the future. It's got to be a critical piece to it, given how much value is put on user-generated content. So, good question.
Chris, our next question comes from Megan. She asks, is there a good first trial run at this, at USG, that you'd recommend from an association? Like, where should they start?
Yeah, so great ways, and sometimes it's starting small. When I think about associations, or you think about any company or brand, a lot of people you'll see running these contests where they're rewarding people for sharing their content across social media. If it were me at an association and I was in charge of putting together a content calendar, or I was in charge of generating more traffic to my website and getting more engagement, I'd be really trying to get a roster of members who might be influential. There are tools actually you can use as well to see who has the most influence on the web, and trying to get them lined up to produce content for me. Now there's a lot of wrangling involved in that too, so it might not be the first step, but some of those other steps could be simple as member testimonials, getting more member testimonials on your website, making them very visible in the areas where prospective members would interact, and preferably in video format if you can get video. Doesn't have to be super professional either. People value the amateur video over the professionally produced stuff oftentimes in these instances because it's more authentic, it's more of a person on the other side.
And I'd say one area we see this a lot with our clients is at their annual meetings, right? Just inviting their membership and attendees at annual meetings to take that leap, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. So real low-hanging fruit there. Right.
And I think one of the ones I liked was, yes, you're asking your members to tweet and hashtag your organization at your annual event, but they're out there working in your industry perhaps. Have them tag and hashtag the organization throughout the year. Or there are some tools. There's a tool called Social Toaster that we work closely with. There's another Maryland-based company that actually enables you to make your members or large number of individuals in your organization, make them ambassadors. So it's taking the friction out of them sharing social or content about your organization. So you can pre-populate content that they just have to repost through this platform, or they could post content that gets pushed back up and everyone else reposts it. So it's a really good way to kind of mobilize a group that is often in different locations and doing different things, except for certain times around the year, but really keep them thinking and engaging throughout the year.
Great. Well, I think that does it, Chris, for our questions today.
Excellent. Like I said, an exciting topic. I think it's it's something we work with a lot of associations. We're really encouraging them to take part in these different tactics, if you will. And again, we'd love to discuss a strategy if anyone has any questions. Thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for attending, and we will be emailing out a copy of this webinar. So look for that in your inbox. Thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon.